I am one of the project coordinators for ChicagoCHEC at the UIC campus. And essentially, I am one of the people that you'll be working with closely during the summer program. And I'm here to help answer any questions that you all might have. So we've been recruiting all and we just wanted to give you all the opportunity to get the chance to kind of jump in front of us and ask us any specific questions that might be pertaining to your exact application. So please feel comfortable to ask us whatever questions you might have and make them as specific to you as possible, because this is the best opportunity to really get a chance to talk to us before you do ultimately submit your application. I'll also just be providing some confidence boosters for you all, because I do know the application is due in about 10 days or so, but I still believe that there's more than enough time to put together a really strong application as well if you're still on the fence about applying in general. And so, yeah, I'll let Maggie go ahead and introduce herself now.
I am Maggie Nava, and I am the site director for the ChicagoCHEC, but also work in the research and education core, which is part of ChicagoCHEC. I see a lot of familiar faces, which makes me very happy. So I'm like Sam says, please ask as many questions as you want. This is time for you to get answers to those questions.
Yeah, so we can just go ahead and kick it off. So I don't know if anyone wants to start, but does anyone have any immediate questions or just needs any additional feedback about the application process so far?
Yeah, I have a question.
And please feel free to also introduce yourself to the group as well, just so we can also know who's here.
Should I go?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi. So my name is Morel, and I have a question about what the letters of recommendations should consist of.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. That's a question that we've been getting a lot of inquiries on. So letters of recommendation, you need two of them. One should be from faculty, and the other letter of recommendation, it can also be from faculty, but it doesn't necessarily have to be from faculty. So the number one question is, what exactly is faculty? Faculty is someone who is employed by a university in some type of professor role, and sometimes that can also include someone who is a researcher at your institution. So a perfect faculty recommendation for students such as you all would just be someone that has seen you in the classroom and can speak to what type of student you are, can speak to you having a good grade in their class, or if you all work in someone's lab. So I know that's really, really big at NEIU's campus specifically. When I was there, I noticed that a lot of students work within professors' labs. So even if that faculty member might not necessarily teach you, but you do work in their lab, that also still will count as a faculty letter recommendation. But like I said, you do need two letters of recommendation. So the second letter of recommendation can be from someone else. Doesn't necessarily have to be from faculty, but it's someone that can speak to who you are as a person, your work ethic, and just the type of things that you do in and outside of the classroom. So as long as this person isn't like a family member, this person is valid enough to write your letter of recommendation. So I always encourage students, if you have an advisor for any student groups that you might be a part of, if you're a part of any religious groups outside of school, and you help with the students or the volunteering of that, if you're a part of any organization and you volunteer, whoever your site coordinator is or your site director is, that would be perfect. If you're a resident assistant, your resident director could write you a letter of recommendation. So these are just the different type of folks who aren't necessarily faculty that would still be good for you to reach out to get a letter of recommendation. And then I do know, once again, being science students, a lot of your lectures are oftentimes really, really big. And as a result, you oftentimes don't get a chance to make a personal connection all the time with your professor. So I also like to encourage students that it is a good idea sometimes reaching out to the TA if you do have a better relationship with that TA and asking them to write the letter of recommendation for you, and then getting permission from the professor to sign off on that letter of recommendation. So once again, that's an opportunity for you to kind of get a letter of recommendation from faculty where it might not directly come from your professor, but your professor's the one to sign off on it. And then this is another thing I've also seen. Sometimes if you don't have if you're in a class that doesn't have a TA, and you don't have a good recommend letter, you don't have a good relationship with your professor. If you are a student with a really good grade in their class, for example, don't be afraid to reach out to them during their office hours and saying like, hey, this is who I am. This is the program I'm applying to. I have an A or B in your class, and this is my personal statement. I was wondering if you would be comfortable writing me a strong letter recommendation. And this is just good advice for just not only this program, but just any program that you might be applying to. Always make sure you're using the language. Are you comfortable writing me a strong letter of recommendation? Just because you don't want anyone to write you a recommendation that might not speak to who you are as a student, all the excellent work that you do. Yeah, can someone, I don't know who think that is.
Yeah, somebody probably calling in and using the computer. So if you could, there you go.
There you go.
Okay.
Appreciate it. So where I was leaving off. Yeah, so just always using that language, like, are you comfortable writing me a strong letter recommendation? And like, yeah, if you don't, like, once again, just going back to the whole idea, if you don't have a personal relationship with them, that is okay. Just make sure that whatever you do have of a personal statement, that you do share that with them, so that they can kind of incorporate that into your letter of recommendation, and kind of just having that setting up a office hour meeting also will be really, really helpful. So that's my best advice. I've done this in the past. I did it with my recommendation. The woman who wrote my letter of recommendation for this program when I applied, I didn't have the strongest relationship with her, but I had a really good grade in her class. I set up something during office hours, and I also sent her my recommendations, and so she was able to come up with something that was relatively strong enough for me to matriculate into the program. So yes.
So, and I'm also gonna Sam is going to do most of the speaking because he has been through the program. So he's more aware of what worked for him and what worked for the other fellows that were in his cohort.
Okay. Hi.
Yes. I remember you.
I'm
How are you?
Pooja. Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Hey. I have a question for the personal statement. What should that include? If you could explain it once.
The first personal statement?
Yeah, for the personal statement, like what exactly do you want us to include on that?
Yeah, so for the first personal statement, I would like to encourage students that this is the one where you should pretty much really spend most of your time talking about why you want to matriculate into the program, and most importantly, what are some things that you've done in and out of the classroom that speaks to why you would be perfect for the program. So for example, whatever your major is, whatever your career aspirations may be, this is a good opportunity for you to talk into that and kind of speak as to why you would be a part of it. And then in addition to that, also just making sure that you spend some time talking about health disparities in that, because that's what we're really, really big on. So just really kind of focusing on who you are as a person and what you've seen in your community, and why health disparities has a personal connection to you, whether you come from that community or not, right? So this is also a good time for you to say, I do this type of work, or I intern here, or my first exposure to research was this, and that kind of opened my eyes to this, or when I was in this class, I was taking this course. So this is a time for you to kind of really be school focused, spending more time doing, and I won't speak too much on it, but spending more time on your second essay about the things you might do outside of school. That's what you want to use that second essay for, but this first essay should be kind of dedicated to who you are as a student, the work that you've done in the past, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom, and just really being able to speak to health disparities, but also for those who don't know, like, science is really moving towards a very collaborative direction, and it kind of really is like personified in this program, that this is a tri-institutional collaboration. So for folks who don't know, not only will there be students applying from UIC, but there'll also be students applying from Northwestern, NEIU, and the city colleges, right? And all of those institutions that are represented through their students are also represented on our board in terms of people who are communicating together to come up with these research projects. So ChicagoCHEC's Research Fellowship is just an arm of what ChicagoCHEC does in the community. to the different cores that exist within it. And so I bring that up to say this is also a good time for you to speak about who you are as a student and how well you work well with others and how you want to be peer mentored by your other people and how you want to kind of grow your network past just UIC or whatever institution you might come from. And this is a really good opportunity for you to really be around students who are just as passionate as you about health disparities, just as passionate about you as reducing those health disparities, talking about cancer and stuff like that. So also, I want to encourage you all, if it is genuine, to also kind of speak about the opportunity to work closely with other students from all these different amazing institutions, and really being able to kind of create that relationship in which whatever you all decide to do, especially if it is in science, is going to be very collaborative. And this is going to be a really good opportunity for you to dive into that.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So with transportation, I looked on your website. It said that there would not be any help or aid or assistance with transportation. And for me personally, it would get pretty expensive with transportation. So I just wanted to know if there would be any discount with transportation or no.
So that's a good question. So pretty much, so just to be more specific in terms of how the program runs, typically a regular work week for you would be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. You'll be at the Northwestern School of Medicine, so the Feinberg School of Medicine. And so that takes place primarily near the Ann Lurie Children's Hospital on Chicago Avenue. So if you're familiar with like Chicago Avenue and Lakeshore Drive, the Museum of Science, and the Museum of Contemporary Art, we're going to be in that vicinity right there. And so pretty much part of the reason why we pay you all is because we understand that we're for the most part all adults and we have bills to take care of. And so we understand that there might be other opportunities that you all would much rather take, because if we didn't pay you all, you wouldn't be making any money. So part of the reason why we pay you all is just to make sure we are a competitive program, and we're inviting you all to kind of come in, get this research exposure, and also get paid to do it. But in addition to that, because we are paying you, some of that, the bills that you will accrue during the summer includes travel to the institution. So it is a $4,160 stipend. And at the time I did the program, it was about $3,600, and that was still enough money for me to come to and from work. So I can say that if you are concerned about how much it costs to get the site, the stipend will for sure take care of most of that for you. In addition, hopefully helping you pay some of the additional bills you might have as well.
So I want to add to that. Yeah. Will you be driving? You'll be driving in the city.
There's like an echo or reverb.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Well, I already muted that on purpose.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what.
But I'm gonna be taking the CTA.
Can everyone do me a quick favor? Just mute their things if they're not talking right now, just so we can figure out. We just need everyone to mute themselves if they're not talking, just to make sure that there's not an echo that's coming from someone being in a specific one.
Okay, you'd like us to mute our phone.
Yeah, if you're not talking.
Okay, so no, it's still. Yeah, let me turn mine. Maybe it's okay. CTA?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't provide any discounts for CTA. What I was going to say is if you're driving in, we do provide parking passes. Northwestern does have a lot in which you will, if you drive in, you can park the lot, and we'll give you a parking pass for that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I have a question.
And I just also want to just add, I personally do work. So I do know that the program does last most half of June, all of July, and the first week of August or so. I do know CTA Unlimited ride for a month, $105. So hopefully you won't really need anything more than $200 of your stipend to go to commuting for the rest of the summer. So I would just say about $250 of your stipend would be probably dedicated to commuting, but it shouldn't be past anything past that. When you are with us, the hours of 9 to 5, we do take care of transportation. So once a week, we do site visits to different places in the city, different nonprofit organizations across the city of Chicago. So we do charter a bus between those hours for you all, and we go to conferences during the event, during the hours of 9 to 5 as well. We'll make sure that we take care of you all's transportation there. So pretty much you just need transportation to and from work, and that's it. Everything in between there will be on us.
Hi, I have a question. Matthew Uribe here. Nice to meet you all. I have a question. Are we responsible for providing a CV
I think you mean.
or a CV or a resume? Is it and or?
It's really or. So if you have a CV, then feel free to go ahead and upload it. But typically, people early on in their careers, like us, typically won't have a CV. A CV is really good for a catch-all. So for folks who don't know the difference between a resume and a CV, a resume is typically no more than one page, depending on some programs. It can be a front and a back. But a CV is literally an aggregate of all of the work, of everything you've ever done in your entire career. So, so most of us, who are kind of fresh in our careers, we won't have a CV, so your resume will be perfectly fine.
Wonderful. Thanks for answering my question.
Of course. Does anyone else have a question?
How long, what's the page limit for the letter of recommendation?
I don't believe there's really a page limit. I mean, as long as it's a strong letter of recommendation,
Right.
we will read through everything. I mean, it'll probably make you even look a lot better. It's always quality over quantity for sure. But if you have a recommendation that really has some things to say for you and it takes them to say it, then definitely let them know that is okay.
Okay.
And it's only 2 recommendations per person, so it's not like we're gonna have too many recommendations to read through anyway. So definitely,
Right.
whatever. Please let them know that however many pages it takes. I would say probably nothing more than 3 pages.
Yeah, it's usually a one page.
A one-pager, but
Yeah.
I have seen a page and a half as well, especially when you like insert letterheads and all that type of stuff. Between 1 or 2 pages with that letterhead will be perfectly fine.
And that's
Yeah.
double space.
Like Sam said,
It's double spaced.
a double st- it's
It does-
usually, yeah.
it
It
doesn't
all
matter.
depends on who's
Yeah,
writing
right,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
people have different styles. As long as, like
Gotcha.
Sam said, as long as it's
Hi.
strong letter of recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Does anyone else have another question? Yeah, we see you. Hey.
Yes, hi. Me in the blue or?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, hi. I'm Scott, by the way. Sorry, I was a little late.
That's completely fine. Thank you for coming.
Yes. So, I was wondering. So, does CHEC look at the grades before the start of the term? Like, look at your final transcript before you start over the summer, or just the transcript you submit. Like, for example, like I'm in the spring 2020 term right now, right? So will they look at the grades from the spring 2020 term as well, or?
So the latest transcript is fine. And the only reason we ask for the transcript is so that we know that you are currently matriculated in an institution. Yeah, in a school. Yeah.
Okay, so do the grades have anything to do with admission or?
It is a very
selection?
competitive. Yeah, it's very competitive. A very competitive program. However, that is not what we're focusing on. We're focusing more on the statement, the first statement, the personal statement, and then how you answer, because there is an interviewing process. So how you answer the questions that we're asking you during the interview.
Okay.
But we don't really look at grades or GPA.
Okay.
Hi, hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfectly, yeah.
Okay, so I've actually asked questions in the chat, so I just don't want to like speak out loud here because it's a library. So if you could take a look at my questions in the chat, that would be great.
And I think one of our other core leaders is answering questions in the chat as well. I see her name popping up in the corner of the screen.
I don't think I can without.
Well, I think Jolie is answering.
Let me see it.
Has your question been answered yet? You can. It has been
Oh, it
answered?
has?
Okay,
Awesome.
perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question?
Hey, so I have a question.
Yeah.
So is CHEC an everyday program over the summer, or?
Yeah, it is. So CHEC is a full-time commitment, so it is a full-time job essentially. So you'll be in the office Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, receiving different types of lectures, site visits, working on your project as well. So I guess since we're in the process of already talking about it, I'll just give everyone a quick overview. So ChicagoCHEC is an 8-week summer program that primarily that will take place from June 15th until August 7th. So Monday, June 15th to Friday, August 7th. And it is a paid summer internship, so the stipend is $4,160, and it exists in 3 main components. So that first component is the lectures. So you will receive lectures from researchers, professors, from all the institutions represented, and these lectures kind of range in topic. So whenever people hear that it's a lecture-based internship, they kind of get nervous. But I can say that the lectures range from something extremely scientific and cancer-heavy as, the pathways of the cell that kind of lead to cancer cells developing in a human body, to something as not necessarily simple, but something as just as beneficial as how do you perfect your elevator speech,
Yes.
and how do you confidently give a presentation, because you all will have to do a presentation later in the summer. How do you effectively network? So we have a bunch of workshops and lectures that exist in that summer that will give you a really holistic type of experience where whatever you walk away with in the summer, it will be worth your time, right? The second component that exists is the site visit. So once a week, we will be at the UIC campus, and during that time, you all get a chance to network with some high school students from a program called Research Start. And these high school students all will kind of be with you during those lectures, and this is a great opportunity for you all to kind of step up as a mentor for some of them, and kind of just learn from them as much as you're teaching them as well. And then at the end of the day, while we have the lectures, after the lectures conclude, we then give you all, we all charter a bus and we go to a different organization in the community of Chicago, and it kind of helps you figure out what does cancer research look like in the community and how does it effectively impact that community in a positive way. And so this is really important to us because this is an opportunity for you all to kind of see how are health disparities being reduced in real time using the cancer research we're learning about from these lectures on Northwestern and UIC's and Northeastern's campus. And then the final component, which is a lot of students' favorite part, is the oral presentation. So you all are broken up into groups of about 3 or 4 from your cohort, and you all are then tasked with the job of creating a literature review based off of all the information you learned that summer, and you pretty much get to execute a poster presentation in which you give an oral presentation based on your topic to your friends, your family, and the researchers that you had met that summer. And so all those things kind of come together to create what we know as ChicagoCHEC, and so you'll be working on each of those different things every day of the week during the 8-week summer program as well. So it does sound like a lot, but the program is extremely organized, and you will have enough time to really get to know each other. Like I said, that genuine building relationships with people from different campuses will be there. The opportunity to do that will be there. The opportunity to effectively do your oral presentation without being stressed out in terms of how much time you have to finish it will be there. I also know in the years past, we've also had a book club. So there's a lot of moving pieces, right? And I guarantee that by the time you're done with the program, you'll be very happy you completed it because no matter what you're interested in, there is going to be something that everyone will be able to walk away from. And I think that that's why we also stress the fact that it is not compulsory for you to be a science major. We take all majors. Anyone who, whether I was an economics major when I matriculated into the program, and you know, it was just one of those things where we've had people who are poli-sci, people who are interested in going to law school. We pretty much figure out how do you take your passion for whatever it is that you're already doing and kind of marry that to how you have a real conversation about health equity in your community and how all these things work together, right? Because it's all connected at the end of the day, and we give you the skills and resources to also figure that out and go into your community and get things done. Go ahead, yeah.
Me? Yeah. Hi. So I was wondering, what is so like would students have to like arrange their own transportation and everything, or?
Yeah. So students will have to arrange their own transportation. So once again, Monday through Friday, like that's where everything takes place from 9 to 5, and then you have to pretty much take care of your transportation to and from work. But if there's anything that goes on during the hours of 9 to 5, we will make sure that we take care of transportation for you all. So once a week, we do go to site visits across the city of Chicago. But in addition to that, random opportunities sometimes pop up. I know last year they went to a day conference, and they took care of transportation for that day conference last year. So whatever is happening between the hours of work, you don't have to worry about your transportation. We'll take care of that. But as long as you have a ride to Northwestern and UIC on Wednesdays and from Northwestern and UIC on Wednesdays, and I'm saying UIC on Wednesdays because that's where we'll be on Wednesdays, and we'll be at Northwestern on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. As long as you have rides to and from there, you'll be completely fine. And like I said, or like Maggie was saying, we do typically give out parking passes, so you don't have to worry about parking. You pretty much have to pay for gas. And then once again, for students who are CTA, for example, I do know that it's only a 2-month program. So CTA Unlimited Rides is $105. So we are giving you all a $4,000 stipend. So $200 out of that $4,000 stipend still gives you enough room to also have some money to, you know, buy other things or pay your bills that you might have for the summer as well.
Hey, Sam.
So
Go ahead. I don't know, Sayama, is that even? Did you have a question?
Yes, Sima. So, I was just told that you were you were actually a CHEC fellow at one point. So, like, how was it for you? What were you, like, studying? What was your major? Things like that.
Yeah, so I was so just kind of giving you just the overall who I am as a person. I started off at UIC, the biochemistry major, and do me a favor, can you mute it real quick? Or Mike, I think it's giving me feedback.
Mine's muted.
Okay, for sure. Well, yeah, thank you. So I matriculated. I started as a biochemistry major. I did a summer program at Case Western Medical School called SMDEP. It's called SHTEP now. And so I was able to understand all the things it took to become a medical doctor and realized that I didn't like that. It was not who I was. So the following summer, during that summer, I learned about what public health was. So the following summer, I did an internship with the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, and that was a public health focused internship. And at that point, I was sold. So after I came back, would have been too late for me to transfer my major from biochemistry to public health because at UIC it's a 2-year program and I needed to get out in 4. So I just switched my major over to economics because economics was a degree that I felt was involved in everything. There's economics of everything. And so I decided to make that my major. So shortly before graduating, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life and what was going to happen because I was graduating and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I actually went to a career fair and I ran into a student who was actually recruiting students for ChicagoCHEC. And through that conversation, I was, given the confidence I needed to apply to ChicagoCHEC. And a couple, months later, I eventually matriculated into the ChicagoCHEC program. So, and I really like telling this story because it also speaks to just the level of connections that you make if you're willing to put in the work. While I was in ChicagoCHEC, I knew that I had my life figured out for the next 8 weeks, but I still didn't know what I was going to do after the program was over. So while I was in ChicagoCHEC, I was still applying to jobs. And so in the middle of ChicagoCHEC, I actually got a job offer from an investment consultant agency. And so I decided that I was going to go ahead and take it. So after ChicagoCHEC was completed, I took about a week off or so, and I started my job in investment consulting. And I did that job for about 8 months or so, and I realized that once again was not who I was as a person. In this role, I didn't get a chance to really network with people and speak with people who were passionate about health disparities and pretty much what I spent my entire undergraduate career doing and studying. And so I reached out to some of the mentors I had made during ChicagoCHEC, and I just asked them like, hey, do you know of any job opportunities that I can potentially apply for at UIC or just any other cancer center? Because I really like stressing the fact that it is a tri-institutional collaboration. So the mentors you make at UIC, those connections definitely run through the connections you can make at Northwestern, which can run through the connections you can make at NEIU as well. And so lo and behold, a couple months later, I was hired to work in the same program that actually had me as an intern at one point. I've been working with the Cancer Center at UIC in ChicagoCHEC since May or so. And on top of that, they've just also given me the opportunity to make these connections. So a lot of the people who were my mentors during ChicagoCHEC ultimately wrote my letters of recommendation for graduate school. So I'm also in the process of applying, or I actually just recently applied to graduate school as well. And so just even speaking on just the connections and stuff like that, we recently had a student who was a ChicagoCHEC fellow in 2018 and then was a senior fellow in 2019. And so pretty much senior fellows are previous CHEC cohorts in which they are invited back through an application process to be a senior and almost be a peer mentor for the undergraduate senior regular CHEC fellows. And she was a senior CHEC fellow in 2019, and she's going to actually be starting medical school at UIC this upcoming fall. And so she was speaking to ChicagoCHEC being one of the mechanisms that she was able to leverage to help her get into medical school through the connections and letters of recommendations and research she was able to do. So this is a very respected program through the 3 different institutions just because of the guest speakers we invite to speak to you all. And it's really because it is a competitive program and the cohort is so small, you all really do get a chance to make these meaningful connections with the professors we invite in, and these professors ultimately turn into whether it's a letter of recommendation in the future, a future actual mentor, or even working in their lab that following summer or the academic year. Just put everything into the program, and I promise. And that's another cool thing about the senior fellows, because they also were a part of the program. A lot of the speakers we invite in are similar from year to year. So sometimes if you have a conversation with a senior fellow and you tell them, hey, I'm really interested in going to nursing school, or hey, I'm really interested in neuroscience, and this is the part of neuroscience that why I want to go to medical school. They'll like, nudge you and say like, oh, this speaker is a great person for you to really introduce yourself to. This speaker literally specializes in what you're interested in, and sometimes they go as far as actually introducing you directly, like, hey, Professor so-and-so, I'm a senior fellow, had a great time learning about you last year. I just wanted to personally introduce you to the current cohort we have, and this student is actually interested in what you're doing, so I thought you two should connect for sure. And then they, make that connection for you. Maggie's amazing at doing that for students as well. So
Thank you.
yeah, no, she's amazing at that. So I always tell students, as much as you are learning from us, we learn from you. And one of the most important things that I think happened when I was a fellow, and I know that happens every year, is during introductions, it's almost your chance to give your first elevator speech.
Yes.
Before we help you refine it. And pretty much the whole purpose of this is we go around the room and we all introduce ourselves, but in addition to introducing yourself, you kind of explain what your career aspirations are. And we don't just do that because it's an icebreaker. We actually take into account what your aspirations and what your future career goals are. We write those things down and we incorporate that in real time into the curriculum. So if we realize that we don't have enough representation for people that are interested in dentistry, we'll make sure that we make room on the schedule to try to invite a dentist who might be also doing cancer research and dentistry at the same time, nursing as well. We have computer scientists come in and talk about how computer science even relates to cancer research and how you can kind of create a way for that. We have anthropology. It's a really, really diverse network of professors and majors that are represented through ChicagoCHEC. So literally whatever your interest is, I guarantee you we can help connect you to someone that's specifically doing exactly what you want to do already. And I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yeah, perfect. And then does anyone who you haven't had a chance to, I just want to make sure I give them the space to do that. Is anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet want to ask the question?
You can put your GPA.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering if there was an age limit to it.
Oh, no, not at all. And I actually appreciate you asking that question because when a lot of people hear about this opportunity, they believe it's for students and they have a certain mindset of what a student looks like. And they oftentimes think of the 18 to 24-year-old who are already an undergraduate. But we understand that not everyone's path to school is the same. And as a result, this is literally, as long as you're a student at any of the 4 institutions that are represented, you are eligible for the program. So there is no age limit or age requirement as long as you're a student. And we oftentimes very much encourage people who have, and I don't like using this term, but untraditional route to come in. And we've had students in the past that don't necessarily fit what people think a student looks like participate in the program. So this is just literally for anyone who is a student at any of those 4 institutions. That's the only requirement. Anything else is fine. And I can say that we've had students that were, over the age of 24 a part of the program. So it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? We still have a lot of time. We'll be here.
Okay, I have another question. So I'm looking at the application right here, and it's asking for poster sessions and like publications and things like that. So I do have experience in research, and we did publish a poster. So do you want that attached with the resume, or how does that work?
You can. If that's something that you want to do, then go ahead and attach it to the resume.
Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah, I always just like to remind students as well that this is an exposure program. So whether you've done a bunch of research or no research at all, it's completely fine.
Right.
So if you want to highlight that, you definitely can. But if you don't, especially for students who might not have any research experience under their belt, if you don't attach anything like that, it won't be counted against you. At that point, everything that you add to your application will more more likely just help you than hurt you, if anything. So if you don't have any research, that's completely fine as well. But if you do want to include that, please do. Does anyone else have a question? Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. So what? So when do you guys think you guys be notifying students by for interviews and things?
Mid-March, for interviews, yeah, mid-March for sure. And I'm not sure if you've gotten the flyer, but on the front of the flyer is kind of like an overview of the program, and on the back of the flyer, it actually gives a breakdown of the schedule. So the application's been open since December. Applications closed on the 28th, and then it says between mid to late March is when we notify students about interviews, and then early April is when we let you all know that you matriculate into the program or not.
That's fine.
And I'll share that file with everyone. Go ahead, Pooja.
Okay. It's just what is something that people don't necessarily know about you, but that you think they should. Like, I'm confused. What do you want? Like, what you are looking for the answer? I mean, what kind of aspects should we mention on that?
Yeah, so this essay is probably one of the most, I'll say, important aspects of your application, because it helps us realize that you're like a person outside of the classroom.
Is it something like personal statement or like something else? Is it something like personal statement? No?
I mean, yeah, no, they're both personal statements, but this is an opportunity for you to like literally get really personal and open up about who you are as a person and what you might do outside of the classroom. So I'm just going to be completely like just direct and just open up about what I did on my statement. So, for example, I run a clothing line in which I take moments in Black history and recreate them onto different T-shirts and apparel. And it's really rooted in storytelling and providing resources to marginalized communities in Chicago, because we take the profits and convert them into scholarships. So I was able to talk about that experience and still find a way to kind of relate it in saying like, hey, this is who I am. I run a clothing line. I love to do the research about it. So it speaks to like how the research I do in my clothing line can translate to actual research done in a lab. And then I also said I'm also big on providing resources, which also is related to health disparities. So that's the kind of direction we want you to go in. It's kind of just talking about. So if you volunteered, I was working with a student actually, and without saying too much about he talked about how he helps students read, right? So that's what he does outside of the classroom, and he was like, that's not something people necessarily know about me, but I think that's really an interesting thing about me. And he kind of related to how the people he helps teach read are from marginalized communities, and this is like helps him like strengthen his idea of wanting to become a doctor and helping people receive resources and of things that they want to do and stuff like that. So that's kind of the direction we want you all to go in for this essay. It's kind of just talking about what's on your resume or what's not on your resume that's interesting about you that you really want us to know about that we might not necessarily know about, right? We can, see your grades, and we can see that you've interned here and you've done this work and done that work, but what makes you interesting? And what do you do? So if you're like a part of an organization and you have a specific story about being in that organization, about how you overcame something, that would also be a really good story to tell. This is really just about storytelling in that essay and figuring out how do I say my story in 300 words or less, and do that effectively. So I found that sticking to just one idea. So the first essay is probably a little harder to write because it's like trying to pull all of the things you do in the classroom together cohesively. The second essay is really hard to find a topic to write about, but once you figure it out, it'll flow really well because really you should just be honing in on one specific story about an experience you've had and kind of just fleshing that out and saying, this is who I am, this is what I do, and I think that you should know about this. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
You're mute.
Pooja.
Okay. I'm scared like both the essay might sound similar and that might sound boring. That's why I wanted to make sure like what is specific.
Oh,
Thank you. I got
Yeah.
the answer anyway. Okay.
No. Any other questions?
I have a question. So, like, is it not recommended that I take a summer class?
That's a great question. Yes, it's 100% not recommended that you take a summer class because this will be taking place from 9 to 5. Now, if you somehow magically are able to get a summer class that takes place after 5, and you can make it to that class, then by all means, feel free to do that because the work outside of ChicagoCHEC, you really don't have too much to do except for towards the end of the summer when you are working on your poster presentation. You might need to take care of some stuff outside of work hours, but we typically try to make sure that you all get enough time during the day to work on everything that you need to work on before you go home because it is the summertime. But yes, if you are planning to take a summer class between the hours of 9 to 5, it's not going to be possible if I'm being 100% honest. And in addition to that, that's not to say that you shouldn't apply to this program. I always tell people it's better to tell us no than to tell yourself no, just because life is so volatile. So if you are interested in the program, I don't believe it's a super strenuous application process. So I would encourage you to just go ahead and apply to the program regardless. And if you do make it as far as the interview and do find out that you are going to get into and you do find out you got into the program, then you can go ahead and make that decision at that point whether you want to take this opportunity or if you want to take that summer class. But the last thing you want to have happen is for you to think you're taking a summer class or think you have another commitment, find out that commitment kind of falls through, and then you kind of are kicking yourself in the butt saying, oh, I kind of wish I
So you
applied.
guys can work on missing work if you have any.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Did that answer your question, though?
Yes, you did. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I believe someone just joined us. Can you repeat your question? Hello?
maybe we lost them.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any additional questions? Make sure you unmute yourself, Pooja.
Okay. Okay, this is on it now. Okay. So, you say we have to meet at UIC or Northeastern?
That's a good question. I'm sorry if I was saying it confusingly, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday we meet at Northwestern School of Medicine campus. So I also want y'all to know that is downtown. So that's on near Chicago Avenue. It's near the end, Lurie's Children's Hospital. Then once a week we come to UIC's medical campus. So that's IMD. So that's near like Polk Street or what's the major street over here?
Damon.
Ashland, Damon.
Damon.
Yeah, Damon's the major street over here. So we're once a week we'll be at UIC. And then on the off chance during the summer, once or twice typically we'll have a day at Northeastern. But we typically you all won't typically know what days those are until you get your summer schedule, but you can already automatically put in your summer schedule now that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday you'll be at Northwestern, and on Wednesdays you'll be at UIC.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
These are all great questions, by the way.
Yes, I appreciate them so
Yes.
much. Yeah.
Yes.
And then does
Okay,
anyone else have any? You have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I think
Unmute yourself. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Are we paid for being in the lecture courses or at CHEC or?
Yeah, so
Huh?
you pay for the entire summer program, and all of the components. Like I said, it's three main components, and it's not like your payment doesn't really become an issue until you start missing days. Um, but yeah, as long as you show up Monday through Friday, not from 9 to 5, you will get your full stipend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So when you say full stipend, are we gonna get paid like every 2 weeks or anything like that, just so that I can prepare on how
Yeah,
to like
understand.
go to and
That's a really
from?
great question. I can speak for UIC because that was the institution I was paid through. So at UIC, we were paid every 2 weeks, and our taxes were taken out of our stipend immediately as well. So that's also something that I want to be transparent about. The stipend is $4,160, but because it is a stipend that you're working for, it is taxable. So I do know that Northwestern, for example, their stipend isn't taxed.
It's also, yeah,
Whoa.
the same scenario as UIC.
Oh, it's every 2 weeks now?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay, every 2 weeks. So yeah, Northwestern gets paid every 2 weeks. I just remembered that there is a program. I don't know whether it's Northeastern, but I do know that there were other. There was a site that was paying their students in installments, and those installments weren't taxed, but you had to report them during tax season.
That would be NEIU.
Yeah, so NEIU, they pay their students in installments, so they get that full $4,160, but they will have to pay some of that back in taxes when it comes around. So pretty much UIC and Northwestern, we kind of make sure that you don't have to necessarily worry about that tax portion of it at the end of the taxing season, because it's automatically going to be pulled out. But for the people from Northeastern, that is something for you to keep in mind. Depending on your income, you might end up owing money. Once again, depending on your income, it's very unlikely, but that's just something to keep in mind.
And he said he's mentioning the three institutions because the three institutions split up the students. So it all depends on who's paying you. And we don't, it's random. We don't say, oh, we want to take these students. It's really just a random thing that we split up the students between these institutions.
So the split up institutions is not based on what you're learning or like what like major you're in?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So everyone is just, and that's a really good question too. Everyone is together the entire time. So I don't know if we expanded on this, but every year we admit between 17 and 20 students into the program, and we don't necessarily have slots for each institution. So we kind of just admit students based off of just competitiveness of the program. So I bring that up to say, yeah, you all won't be split up by like all the Northwestern kids are over here hanging out, all the UIC kids are over here hanging out, CC and CC and NEIU are all, in their own. Everyone's not in a silo. Everyone's together. And I can also say, as of last year, ChicagoCHEC as an organization that just did a really good job at making sure that all the students really got a chance to know each other and develop really good relationships. So kind of just even speaking to the things that kind of happened outside of the program. I know last year some of the senior fellows organized an outing with the fellows, and they all went to go watch a movie together after work hours. I know a couple of them still hang out to this day as well. So like this is really a really good chance for you to really open up your network and make like genuinely new friends that are also interested in what you're already doing. And we definitely do give that platform and space for you all to really connect with each other. So like there's definitely no silos between the institutions as it relates to the students. We're all in the same room all of the time working together. Does anyone else have any questions? Also, since no one has any immediate questions, I also just want to emphasize a couple of things about the actual application. And it's mainly just one thing. The application is due on February 28th, and I do know that a lot of students typically copy their questions from the application into a Word document or a Google Doc document and type their responses in there just so that they make sure they always have it and it's always saved. I personally would not wait until the last minute to copy, paste your essay responses from your Google Drive or your Microsoft Word document into the application. Really utilize that save and return button if you can. So definitely don't wait till the last minute to copy paste everything. If you have the time now, just go ahead and upload your CV into there. Go ahead and upload your unofficial transcripts up to there. Just upload everything that you need as much as possible, because in a couple of days, we'll be following up with students who have started their applications and personally reaching out to folks saying like, hey, we've noticed that you've completed most of the application. Is there anything you need to kind of push you to the finish line? So yeah, definitely don't wait till the last minute and start copying and pasting over things that are being completed as they are being completed. And then most importantly, you are allowed to submit your letter. You are allowed to submit your application without your 2 letters of recommendation.
Exactly.
So don't wait on your letters of recommendations to come in. We actually provide a moment of grace period for students that are waiting on their letters of recommendations to come in. So if you look on the application, you can either directly upload them yourself, or you could have your recommenders directly send the recommendations to our email account. So as a result, definitely go ahead and submit those applications. If you literally have everything done and you're waiting on your letters of recommendation, don't. Just go ahead and send everything in, and then just reach out to your recommenders and say like, hey, I just wanted to follow up with you and make sure that you are aware of the February 28th deadline. I've already went ahead and submitted my application. You can go ahead and submit my recommendation to this email address here. So please keep that in mind for sure. Any other questions? And thank you so much, Jolie, for holding it down in the chat portion. I've been seeing your responses, and we really appreciate it.
What makes a applicant competitive?
For sure. A competitive applicant is someone who can speak to health disparities, can really effectively tell their story. So the reason why we keep bringing up stories and being able to tell your story is because everyone who's going to ultimately end up applying to this program are amazing students. And so as a result, you really need to lean into who you are as a person and what your story is, because no one else can replicate that, right? You and I might both be interested in health disparities, and we might have the same feelings and thoughts towards it, but the way we would articulate it would be significantly different if we leaned into who we were as people. And so as a result, make sure you really take your time into looking on the inside. And I think the coolest thing about this application process is whatever you ultimately decide to do, you're going to be able to tap back into these essays and use them for like your essays that you are going to use for medical school or dental school or public health or whatever, graduate program that you're interested in. So definitely lean into your story and really spend a lot of time trying to figure out, how do I tell this in a really cohesive way? Because I also understand it's only 300 words, which is not a lot, and it doesn't sound like a lot because it's not. So really, really speak, someone who can accurately speak to health disparities, especially as it relates to them and their community or whatever community that they're passionate about, especially if they can speak towards working in that community. And then a person who's just really good about telling their story. And Maggie kind of talked about this a little bit, but this is a very holistic application process. So what that means is we don't only look at your resume. We don't only look at your personal statements. We don't only look at your grades. We look at everything as a whole. And your main goal at this point should be, how do I tell who I am as a person, so much so that these folks want to invite me in for an interview to find out who I am as a person. I've had the chance to speak to students personally that I've talked to at info sessions, and they've shared some of their essays with me, and I told them, hey, I remember talking to you, and you have such a bright personality. I'm not getting that in your personal statement. I let that person know your personal statement is really good. It lets me know why you're interested in what you're interested in, but this doesn't sound any different than what another person would say to me. And when they were able to rework that essay, I was like, thank you. Who you are as a person is really shining through your essays now. So a competitive applicant is someone who knows how to write well enough to show who they are as a person. And my best advice into how to figure out how to do that effectively would 100% being this. Find one or two mentors that you trust that can give you constructive feedback on your personal statement. You don't want to have too many people giving you too much constructive criticism, because after a certain point, you're going to get so many differing opinions that you're not going to ever get anything done. So find two mentors that you really trust to really read this. But in addition to those two mentors, I would encourage you all to find, two or three friends that know you really, really well, and have them read your essay and have them answer one question and one question only. And that question is, if you were to read this, do you think who I am as a person is shining through or not? Yes or no? That's it. And you will use whatever that feedback is from them to kind of inform that. When I was writing an essay for another summer program, not this one, and I shared it with my friends, one of the first things they said was, Sam, who you are as a person really shone through this, right? I was referencing rappers and how I believe that a music lyric is very similar to research because it's very rooted in sampling, and you have to go back in time to kind of tap in. So I was, at that time in my life, I was a really big hip hop head, but I still found a way to relate it to medicine and also figure out like how those things work together. But my friends were like, Sam, who you are as a person really shines through. So I understand that you're passionate about medicine, but I also understand that there's other things about you that make you who you are that no one else can speak to. So definitely find two mentors that are going to give you constructive feedback, but then also find three friends that don't necessarily give you that constructive feedback, but kind of say like, hey, like this really sounds like you, and I really understand why you're passionate about what you are, and it's very unique to who you are as a person.
Well, 30. We have the one.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah. Is there anyone on the phone line that we can't necessarily see that's listening in that might have a question?
So you know how you spoke about how you related like rap music with this research subject, like health disparities and things like that. Have you done anything related, like with health? Because I'm not health related.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead and try.
Hello? Okay. Yeah, so I haven't done anything like related to healthcare. So I was just wondering like how can I use, I don't know, I think this is a very specific question. I'm not sure if it can be answered, but you kind of brought like rap music with like the subject and like played a really good role with that. So I'm like thinking like what do I know that I can apply to this subject, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would just really tap into like just who you are, right? Nothing that I ever used in my essays was made up. It was like 100% genuinely me, and I think you have to really trust who you are as a person and say like whatever I find interesting, other people will find interesting. Because when I was doing the rap lyric, like I wasn't doing it to try to impress people. Like I genuinely like saw my favorite rappers use lyrics that were popular in the 90s, and I related that because I was like, in order to do research, you have to go back in time and work off the other people who kind of laid the framework for you, right? So I just noticed that parallel, and I kind of spoke to that. So I wasn't trying to be like this edgy person that was like, ooh, I'm gonna like connect rap and medicine, but I was just like, oh, like this is a real life similarity, and I like love rap music, and I love like medical research, and I see that that's going to be something that I'm going to carry with me moving forward. So just like trust your thought process. And once again, I kind of heard you also mention that you haven't really done anything health related. That's completely fine. But there's probably a reason why you're interested in this program, right? And I think that whatever that is, as long as it's genuine, it'll show through. So definitely speak to why you're interested in it, right? If you've never done anything health related, that's fine. This is an exposure program, so it's not necessary that you have, and it doesn't hurt you any more than it helps you that you haven't. But I think that if you don't have anything, a health background, once again, lean into why you want to kind of start pivoting in this direction. I've read personal statements from people who are going to medical school in which they said, like, I realized I wanted to become a doctor after watching Grey's Anatomy, right? That's not what the entire essay was about, but that's kind of why they became interested in the first place. And that's cool, you know? And so how else are you going to really, and I guess my best advice is this, right? You can not necessarily pose this question to us, but you can kind of really lean into the idea of, I've never done anything health related. I'm interested in doing it, and this seems to be the best opportunity to get my feet wet. And so that's why I want this opportunity, right? Because not that we're the make like the end all be all for you, but you know, if I don't get this opportunity, how else am I really going to start understanding how I can make a career for myself in health disparities, right? And so like yeah, and once again, that's a story that's super unique to you, right? There might be other people who are applying to this program that have done a bunch of research, right? So they're not going to be able to lean into that story the same way that you can. And so that's why, like, we're really stressing the fact of like really, really leaning into who you are as a person, and really leaning into your story. Like, yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Do we have any other questions?
Scott, make sure you unmute yourself.
I didn't know your name. That's, huh?
It's fine. Yeah, my name or Maggie's name?
Both, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Both.
Maggie?
Yeah, and I'm Sam. Or on my emails I go by Oluwaseyi Sam. Yeah.
So you just, I'll just call you Sam then.
Yeah, that's completely fine. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually got to get going. Is that okay?
Definitely,
Yeah,
yeah. I
that's
greatly
fine.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much for stopping by, and appreciate your questions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, namaste. Yeah, I think I saw that same. Yeah, fold your hands together. Okay, namaste. Yeah, I saw it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go as well. Right, thank you so much for your
Thank
help
you so much.
answering the
Thank
questions.
you.
Definitely.
All
And
right, take care.
yeah, I'll follow up with everyone so that everyone who is still on the call has our contact information. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Do we have folks on the line?